War can turn many people into monsters. Believing someone is an enemy can give them the idea that killing that person is justified even when they're innocent civilians. Most war criminals hide in a sea of other soldiers dressed in uniform carrying standard weapons of war. But in the 1990s, one man waged war against men, women, and children alike wearing nothing but tennis shoes and carrying a machete. This is Monsters. Joshua Milton Blahyi was born on September 30th, 1971 in Monrovia, Liberia. He was a member of the Kron people who had migrated to the coast in the early 16th century. The Kron commonly believed in child sacrifice and black magic. Joshua's father, Kwati, was made priest of the tribe, and it was his duty to bless crops, perform rites, and administer cures. Kwati got married and had a first son who was meant to take on the duties of priest, but when he was introduced to the oracle, he was rejected. Elizabeth Panto was already married with 2 children when she was called by the oracle to become one of Kwati's wives. In Joshua's autobiography, The Redemption of an African Warlord, he claimed that he weighed 18 pounds when he was born. Though it's possible, the heaviest baby ever recorded was born at 22 pounds in 1879, and the record for the heaviest baby since was 14 pounds 8 ounces. Like most people I cover who went on to write autobiographies, most of what they say needs to be taken with a grain of salt. Kwati began preparing Joshua for the priesthood immediately. At 7 years old, Joshua was given to several Kron elders who believed he would become a warrior. What followed was a coronation and a ceremony where Joshua wrote about seeing the god they called Nyagawe. He said he was 12 feet or 3.6 meters tall with wings, and he was covered in bruises. The elders trained Joshua, and he was initiated as high priest in 1982 at age 11. Joshua returned to his father's home in Monrovia and lived mostly as a normal child, though he fielded daily meetings with Nyagawe. He also committed monthly human sacrifices. Joshua would choose who would be sacrificed, sometimes paying a dowry to make his victims his property. After that, they had no way to refuse being a sacrifice. Others he would take as they slept. The sacrifice was necessary in order to appease his god. The president of Liberia at the time, Samuel K. Doe, was from the Kron family, so Joshua was his priest. Over time, President Doe turned the power in the country to be solely controlled by the Kron. Joshua wrote that he manipulated the entire country to vote for President Doe. How did he do that? Well, according to him, he extracted white blood cells from people who supported the president and gave them to special agents that had been planted in restaurants and bakeries all over the country. Those agents put the white blood cells in the food they made, and anyone who ate it were then under their control. In 1989, Charles Taylor, who was the leader of the National Patriotic Front of Liberia, launched a rebellion against President Doe. The president had seized control in 1980 and had spent the years losing popularity. The First Liberian Civil War started on December 24, 1989, when Charles's group invaded Liberia from the Ivory Coast. In retaliation, Doe sent the Liberian army to take out the entire area, burning entire villages and killing unarmed civilians. That only made opposition for President Doe increase. Thousands of people joined the rebel forces after that, and a full-blown war was started. In July of 1990, 600 civilians were killed in a church in Monrovia. The attack was carried out by 30 soldiers who were loyal to President Doe and were members of the Kron tribe. On September 9th, Doe was captured by rebel forces and taken prisoner. He was tortured for 12 hours before being killed, and his body was displayed nude on the streets of Monrovia. After the president was killed, Kron members formed the United Liberation Movement of Liberia for Democracy. Joshua became a high-ranking member of the group and was eventually considered a warlord. Joshua used superstition to guide himself and a small group of child soldiers in the fight against his enemies. He and his soldiers started fighting in the nude as they believed that being naked amplified their spiritual powers and made them immune to bullets. He became known as General Butt Naked, and his soldiers were the Naked Base Commandos. Joshua made deals with Mexican cartels to trade locally mined gold and diamonds for guns and cocaine. He used the cocaine to keep his commandos drugged up and feeling invincible. His soldiers were children as young as 9 years old. Joshua said that he had received a vision from the devil where the devil told him that he would become a great warrior and should practice human sacrifice and cannibalism to increase his power. Joshua would say in an interview, quote, "Sometimes I would enter under the water where children were playing. I would dive under the water, grab one, carry him under and break his neck. Sometimes I'd cause accidents. Sometimes I'd just slaughter them." General Butt Naked became one of the most feared people involved in the war. He and his men would storm an area completely nude, killing men, women, and children. Then he would eat their hearts, believing the sacrifice increased his power and invincibility. Despite a majority of Liberians being either Christian or Muslim at the time, the superstitious beliefs increased during the war. General Butt Naked was allegedly never hit with a bullet, and people started believing that he might have been onto something. Civilians started paying for spells of protection, and some even offered up relatives to be used as human sacrifices. Anytime the general and his soldiers took over a town, they would sacrifice a child and eat their heart. He succeeded through fear. When he was seen coming, people would start yelling, "Naked! Naked!" and everyone would run. During a major firefight in Monrovia, a bystander reported seeing General Butt Naked standing atop a truck, holding an assault rifle in one hand and a man's severed genitals in the other. The Civil War went on for 6 years, and the general's actions only got more brutal. By 1996, the war was winding down, and a ceasefire was close to being signed by all parties. Joshua claimed that at that time he had a spiritual awakening. One day, Joshua had negotiated with a mother to hand over her 3-year-old daughter for sacrifice. Joshua explained in his autobiography that he would generally get a parent to hand over their own child by giving them food or medicine that he had cast a spell on. Joshua cut the girl open and pulled out her heart, which he and his soldiers ate. Then he ordered the men to go fetch some clean water. While he was waiting, he claims to have heard the voice of Jesus, who asked him, quote, "Why are you enslaving yourself?" Joshua was confused. After all, he was the leader of the most fearsome group of soldiers in the war. The voice told him that he was in fact a slave and that he should repent and live or refuse and die. Soon the men returned with the water, and General Butt Naked led his Naked Base Commandos into battle. As they moved forward, Joshua claimed that his gun exploded in his hand. When he switched to his other gun, it fell apart. He grabbed a rocket-propelled grenade and it also exploded. Then he ordered his soldiers to retreat. He says that it was the only time he ever retreated from a battle. In the following years, the Liberian Civil War came to an end after more than 200,000 people were killed. During that time, Joshua became a Christian and started preaching throughout Africa. He preached in Ghana as well as in the slums of Monrovia. He was surprisingly welcomed by most, but not all. While preaching on the side of the road one day, a man came up and asked him why he should listen to him when it was him who killed his entire family and tried to kill him. Joshua tried to explain his new faith, but the man wouldn't listen. Another time, a woman confronted him with the information that he had sexually assaulted her and her sisters. Yet another man confronted him about the time General Butt Naked set his father on fire. The man saw Joshua coming and ran to get an axe. As he approached, the man swung the axe, nearly missing the former general. Still, Joshua carried on in his quest for redemption. In 2003, the country formed the Truth and Reconciliation Commission to investigate war crimes that happened during the war. Joshua was the first former warlord to offer testimony in 2008. Joshua was in a safe house under TRC supervision while he testified. He told the commission openly how he had drugged and armed child soldiers. He told them how he had murdered children and eaten their hearts. When he was finished, the commission gave him prosecutorial amnesty. Joshua Blahyi, aka General Butt Naked, would receive no punishment for the estimated 20,000 people he killed while commanding a group of child soldiers. Joshua would continue to preach, and in 2013 he wrote the autobiography that I mentioned previously. He still preaches to this day, and it will likely never be known if his religious conversion is legitimate or if it was conveniently timed in order to escape being punished for his monstrous actions. Did General Butt Naked find a religious loophole, or is he really searching for absolution for his years of terrible deeds? We'll probably never know. If you're a fan of true crime, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss an episode. You can also hit like or leave us a comment. You can check out our other show, Somewhere Sinister, on YouTube or anywhere that you listen to podcasts. If you'd like to support the show, check out our merchandise at thisismonsters.com. The link is in the description. Thanks again, and be safe.